Hello and good morning and good evening to you. My name is Gaurav Rastogi. I took the cat exactly 30 years ago, and so I'm happy to be here. Thanks to CATKing for inviting me. Thanks also to Masters Union for inviting me over to this conversation with you. Today we're discussing storytelling in the age of AI. I'm coming to you from the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I live. And a few years ago, I co founded and sold an AI startup. This was an AI for documents. And since then, I've been thinking about the impact that AI and automation are going to have on the kind of work that we do and the kind of people we need to become. And in that, one of my conclusions is that we must become really good at the art of storytelling. And that's what this conversation is about. And I'm going to begin with a story, of course. There was once a Zen farmer. This is an old man. He used to use his horse. He used to have a horse and used to work the fields with the horse. And one day the horse ran away. And when the horse ran away, his neighbors came by and said, "Oh, this is terrible. This is terrible. This is such bad luck. We're very sorry to hear this." And the farmer said, "Bad luck, good luck, who knows?" Then the villagers were confused, but they ignored him. This is a cranky old man. A few weeks go by, and then one afternoon, when the farmer was working outside, he looked up, and guess what? His horse has returned. His horse is running back to him, and the horse is not alone. The horse had met up with some 10 wild horses, and he had brought the horses along back with him. So now the farmer now has 10 extra horses, and his neighbors come by, same neighbors, and they came by to congratulate him and said, "Wow, this is such good luck." The farmer said, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" And then they're still confused, but they let him be. A few weeks later, his son comes over, the farmer's son comes over to visit and starts working on the farm. And then he decides he wants to tame one of the new horses that have come back. And he's working on the horse, and then he falls off and breaks his leg. His neighbors once again come to him and say, "How awful, this is terrible luck." And the farmer responded predictably, "Bad luck, good luck, who knows?" And then a few weeks later, the army comes around. And the army comes around and starts recruiting people for a war that's going on. But because this young man has a fracture, has a cast on his leg, is unable to walk, they don't take him. And they leave him and take all the other young men off to the war. And his neighbors come by to him, the old farmer, and say, "Amazing, this is such good luck. You're so fortunate." And the farmer says, "Bad luck, good luck, who knows?" The point of this story is that data by itself does not really mean much. You have to get into the context. You have to understand the data in context, zoom out a little, understand the broader story to fully understand the importance of that data. And that's why learning storytelling is a very important craft for you. Because otherwise, you're just going to be like the neighbors, just responding to the data as it comes without understanding what's really going on. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. I will be watching your chat questions. My voice is breaking. Is it still breaking? Can someone confirm back? It's not breaking. All right. Perfectly. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for responding. All right. We are going to test AI, and I'd like you to, for those who haven't already logged into their AI, pick your AI of choice, Perplexity or Gemini or ChatGPT. I'm going to use Perplexity and Gemini today in the AI part of today's conversation. And you can just watch, but I would prefer it if you actually logged in, and if you haven't created an account, get into it and create an account. This is going to be important because then you'll be able to play along this whole thing. And Do that while I talk. I have a few more slides to go before we get to the AI part, so you have enough time. All right. Now, storytelling in a world filled with data, with facts, is a very important activity. The world that you're about to enter, you've taken your cat or you're going to take your cat, get into your MBA, you're entering the world of facts, data, analysis, data visualization, AI, all sorts of things that deal with facts. But facts are like beads that if you have a lot of beads on your screen, for example, right now, they don't really make sense. It's very hard to capture all of them, and you're going to lose one bead or another, and the whole thing falls apart. In a world filled with facts, more and more over the next few years and decades, you're going to have to weave those facts together. Like I was saying, storytelling in a world filled with facts, if all you know is how to wield facts and throw facts at your audience and so on, you're going to get the following reaction. You're going to get this reaction from all your audience. Your audience just would not understand a word of what you're saying. There's no way for them to collect the facts together. And that's why you need to weave those facts together. Those facts are like beads. You have to collect the facts that you care for and weave them together into a story. And then it becomes something that your audience can carry back with them. And this is why, as you enter your post-graduation, as you go to your MBA programs, learning storytelling becomes an essential skill, in the absence of which you're going to be incomprehensible to your audience. Now, storytelling is sense making. If you came into this workshop thinking I'll talk to you about how to write fiction stories, no, this is not that workshop. Here, I'm just saying, if you're in business, if you're an employee or an entrepreneur, or if you're a leader, any of those roles, your primary job is now to make sense of the world. The world is in tremendous change. Disruption is everywhere. Every industry, every economy, every story is being disrupted. And making sense of it all allows you to spot opportunities, create opportunities, exploit those opportunities. If you don't make sense of the world, then everything is nonsense. Everything becomes hard to work with, and people will be overwhelmed. Your organization, your teams, the people that you lead are all going to be overwhelmed by all the change with no sense. And that's why the craft of stitching together, picking the facts and stitching them into a narrative, creating those beads, is going to be an important skill for you to learn. Now, storytelling is at the heart of all leadership. Great leaders help connect the dots. If you've not already watched it, you should go watch Steve Jobs' graduation speech at Stanford from, of course, a couple of decades ago, Connect the Dots. A great leader's job is to connect the dots, make sense of the world. Engaging with your audience requires you to tell stories and to communicate in a way that is sensible. Clarifying what's good, what's not good, explaining things, why things work the way they do, helping your team believe in something bigger than themselves, bigger than the facts that are immediately obvious, and influencing people to do things for you. Each of these are things that leaders must do, and each of these are skills that you must acquire. So as you're getting into the MBA program, you have to understand that an MBA is also a way to learn new stories, plot lines, data points, pressure points, challenges, adversities, intentions, and histories. These should be part of your MBA curriculum. Learning how to summarize documents, learning how to abstract data and create visualizations, learning how to optimize for X or Y or Z. These things you can do, but guess what? ChatGPT can do it just as well. And for the next 3 years after your MBA, a reasonably well-trained AI can keep up with you or possibly beat you. And something that you might do in weeks or months might be done by an AI in a matter of seconds. And so the only way to become fully articulated, reach your full potential, is to understand the world in a better way, which is why you're going to the MBA programs. You're learning how the world works, how sales works, how operations work, how finance works. These are all ways of understanding the world, and that's why it's storytelling. You're not there merely to cram facts or formulas or visualizations or any of that. You're there to understand and deepen your understanding of the world. This is very important. And therefore, you must also learn to separate processes from events. Usually, when you're watching the media, you're responding to events. There's a flooding in Dubai, and you're looking at the event and saying, well, there's a flood in Dubai. That's an event. Now, as you go through your MBA, you should rewire your brain to now zoom out and look at the larger processes at work. What might be happening that has led to a flood in Dubai? Is that frequent? Is that going to happen again and again? What happens if it's going to happen again and again? What might be businesses that might gain from that sort of thing? So you start looking at the overall processes. And as you go through your 1 year, 2 year MBA programs, you're going to become extremely smart at understanding the world, as long as you can separate the processes from the events. Untrained people respond to events. Trained people understand the processes and can now manipulate the processes to advantage. And I'm using the word manipulate not in a negative sense. I just want to be very clear about that. All right. Link to download to something. I'm not sure what we're talking about. Okay. Is there any difference in the AI we're going to use? You will see I'm using Perplexity and Gemini today, and you're going to see that there's some difference in how they work. But more on that in one more slide. All right. Now, when you're reading the news, you can start the practice now, as of today. The main sentence that you need to think about is, just as an example of storytelling, I'm illustrating why you should care and why your listeners should care about something, how something different is happening now to some person or thing, and what all of that means. Now, this sentence in black that you're seeing in the center, now every part of this is articulated. You have to know your audience and what they care for. If you're going to an audience of bankers, they care for the financial impact of the thing we're talking about. If you're going to a volunteer or nonprofit organization, they care for the human impact of a flooding event, for example, and what might that mean. And so you need to know your audience. Learning to know your audience is a very important intuitive skill that you need to develop. Next is something different has happened. Storytelling begins typically with an event, and that event, if it's business as usual, no one notices it. If the sun rises from the east, you're not going to go screaming around your town and saying, hey, the sun rose from the east today. It's obvious because that's how things work. It's only when something different happens, when you actually notice something is happening. Then you can piece together all the processes that are at work. And so you must understand why things are different. Why is this unusual? If it rains in Chittagong, or Cherrapunji, I think, that's Cherrapunji, right? If it rains in Cherrapunji, you're not going to do anything about it. It's not news because that happens pretty much every day. But if it rains in Dubai, which is in the desert, you do care about it. Now, why is it happening now? Is there something special about this point in time, this moment in time? So the now part becomes interesting. Why did this happen now? Now that allows you to look at other processes. Is there climate change happening? Is there massive construction going on in Dubai? Is there just more media intensity? This stuff happens every decade anyway. Why is now special? Allows you to now understand the thing. Okay, cloud seeding is another theory that's popular on the internet, for sure, right? Okay, and then it's happening to some person or a thing, right? And you have to understand, किस angle से ये story interesting है? Who is this story about? Is it about Dubai? Is it about the Sheikh of Dubai? Is it about the people? Is it about some companies that are investing into Dubai? You have to take a particular point of view and then expand out. Now let's go to the left side. Why is something happening at all? What changed in the balance of forces that something is being created? And anything that you do, there are internal and external forces at work. What are those forces? So you see, just a simple sentence like this, any news article, you can now begin to understand deeply, much better how the world works. You can now begin to understand how the world operates. And then it allows you to improve your intuition, improve your ability to communicate, and then you can communicate more efficiently. If all you did was relay facts, then you're not going to be very easy to understand or remember. And great leaders, if you look at political speeches, they distill, boil everything down. And that's because if you're speaking to an audience of thousands of people, you need to boil things down. All right. Now, maza aana chahiye. That is the important part, which is anything that you say, the story that you are weaving needs to be interesting. It needs to be interesting to you, the speaker. It needs to be interesting to the listener. And it must be communicated in an interesting manner. Maza aana chahiye. Now, AI. What does AI give you? AI gives you wings. AI allows you to do your research at scale. AI allows you to explore many paths very quickly. And that's the reason, even with storytelling, something as intuitive as storytelling, AI can be your friend in coming to understand the forces in the world, collecting data, and so on. In this case, the state of the art in AI right now is that AI can read and regurgitate content for you. It is to use a Hindi word, a rattu tota. It is something that doesn't necessarily understand what's being given to it. It just knows how to predict the next word based on a collection of documents you've made it read. And that's good for things that you're about to see right now, which is, it's good enough. It's not creative. It's just building from whatever it's learned by reading. Now, a little word of caution here. A lot of people that went into MBA earlier came out in the same way, which is they knew theories, they knew how to read and regurgitate, rattu tota. And those people are now being outcompeted by AI. You have to do better than that. You have to become better than that. And that's if you haven't seen what AI does, you're going to see it. You'll be astounded at how good the answers are, but how obvious those answers are as well. Your creativity now needs to be flexed a lot more. And that's the point. AI gives you wings. It allows you to become extremely smart extremely quickly. Just a side note, this image that you're seeing obviously is from the Red Bull ad. But here's a fun fact. This entire image, I've converted this in less than 5 minutes using AI. I was able to scan this image, remove all the text, and replace all the text in the same font with the text I wanted to replace it with. Previously, without visual AI, if I had to do this by myself, I would have gone to a designer and they would have had at least 3 back and forth passes with me. It would have taken me, sitting here in the US and a designer in India, it would take me a week or 2 weeks to get this thing back to any level of satisfaction. Now with AI, not even 5 minutes. That's the power of visual AI. You can scan words and remove words almost instantaneously, and that's the fun part. All right, so now let's look at an event in the news. We have already hinted at it, and that event in the news is, of course, the flooding in Dubai. Now, the flooding in Dubai, we've already talked about it. Now, this is very stark. Now, if you're from Bombay, some of those water in the streets, or Bangalore, water in the streets is not news. We've seen that very frequently, nothing new. Why is it news? It's news because it's happening in a highly developed city, very sophisticated city, very beautiful city, run city, and now they too are underwater. So the unusualness is the fact that it's a well developed city in the desert. And that's what makes it interesting, right? Now look at that car, of course. So the visuals are also available now. Maybe 20 years ago, if this happened, not many cell phone cameras would have been around. But now it's all there. So now why this is interesting is because it's a fancy city in a in a in the desert that has very nice architecture, but now all of that contrast makes it interesting. That's all I wanted to show you with this. Now let's get to work. Now, when you go to your AI, I've already done this yesterday in preparation, but watch this. You now need to prompt your AI. Now to prompt the AI, you're going to have to tell it context. What is it that you're trying to do? The Uncle Ji from Three Idiots, भाई कहना क्या चाहते हो? And so what you're trying to do here is you're trying to prompt it to think in a manner that is consistent with the kind of reporting that you want. And I'll show you a few drawbacks of this as well. Now, I'm using Perplexity. I like Perplexity because it gives me actual links and it gives me links that actually work. With Gemini and ChatGPT, you often get hallucinated links that are terrible for your homework. Never do it because you'll get an F because clearly those links don't work. All right. I've given it a context. You are a storyteller. You're looking at the impact of excess rains and don't speculate. See what happened in Dubai and tell me what's going on. And watch this. Very quickly, it gives me an answer. And it's a nice essay type answer with well documented. If you see these like 1, 2, 3, 4, these are all links that it provides. This gives you a good sense of what's happening in Dubai. A very nice essay type response. You can copy it, take it to your text, and you can create a report out of it. But that's not what we're trying to do. Now you're trying to see, okay, good news, bad news, who knows? Sure, this is terrible news for Dubai. But is there any good news in that for someone? You dig in and you say, what businesses would gain from these? And notice how AI will respond. It's trained not to make a good thing out of a bad thing, right? So it doesn't give you any answers because your prompting is not helpful. The AI is designed in a way to not give you answers that, for example, it would not suggest that you drop a bomb somewhere, right? It does not want you, they've put in some safeguards to prevent those kind of things. What that means is it didn't give you the exact answer you wanted. So what you do now, you now go further and you ask again, which businesses might consider moving into Dubai? And then again, it says these things are going to happen. It does not appear. Watch this. So I'm giving you an example of how AI isn't necessarily helping because either my prompting isn't complete or it's been set in a way that it will not answer the question directly. So then you have to go around and ask the question again. Which businesses gain from a generic shift in pattern? Right? Now, because I've removed any references to Dubai, but the interesting thing with most of these AIs is because they're conversation AIs, they remember the context previously. So remember, the answer here will continue to think about Dubai, but I've given it a broader hint. And here you strike pay dirt. You now realize it says, well, if it starts raining a lot in the desert, then it's not a desert anymore, which means agriculture can actually become prominent here. Water management is an important thing. Very clearly, the problem in Dubai was that the water didn't have a way to flow away. So water management infrastructure companies could benefit, and environmental consulting and restoration companies could benefit. All of this, I want to pause here. When you do an MBA for the first 5-7 years, This is what you'd be doing. You'd be doing a lot of analyst work, and this is good quality analyst work. It's not great, but it's a very good quality analyst work. And this is why you should be afraid of AI if this is all you were going to learn. But you should think about how AI gives you wings, because very clearly you should do better than this. That's why we're doing this storytelling session, right? So we got 3 types of business. All right, why don't we double down and ask it more questions? Which companies are the leaders in this space? Do they have an office in this place? And then it says, okay, it gives you again a very nondescript answer, terrible answer, right? Okay, so then what you do is, all right, what are the other companies at a generic level? Again, when you remove the Dubai thing, it immediately starts giving you better answers. It actually gives you company names. Isn't that amazing? If I had an analyst doing this, again, this would take me weeks of back and forth and training to get something like this. But this, seconds, not even. Now you've got companies that are named that you can investigate, right? And then you say, okay, fine. Is this going to happen more frequently? Now you could Google the heck out of the internet yourself, but that's what Perplexity does for you. It searches the internet and gives you a summarized report, which is great. Saves you a bunch of time reading nonsense. Now, it says scientists are not expecting this to happen too frequently. Oh, they do actually expect it to happen frequently enough, a little more frequently, right? And here's a bunch of evidence with links provided. And then, okay, let's turn it to India. Is it similar in India? Could the same things happen in India? And it says blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, it says similar trend, the extremification of weather patterns, right? Okay. I'm showing you a back and forth chain of thought, right? And then what companies are invested in this sort of thing? Because again, good news, bad news, you knew. If there is bad news, it must create opportunities for some companies to solve for that bad news. And so it says, of course, the Met Office in India, there's a bunch of other companies that lists and so on. All right. Then I got bored of that, and going back to what Rahul Gandhi said, maza aana chahiye. So then I said, okay, find me some interesting graphs of precipitation levels. And here, again, if you had to go find these, it would take you a ton of time of back and forth and kissing frogs, so to speak. But here, it immediately finds you all of that stuff. It has all these articles pulled out. Okay, now list your rainfall events in descending order. Okay, and then it tells you, is this happening? Again, you want the facts, but you want the facts in context. So now I'll show you the query. List the largest rainfall events, identify the total rain, and so this is a very precise set of instructions. This allows you to now ask for very precise answers, and it gives you very precise answers. Okay, I'm going to scroll over. Okay. Then I asked it a question, it didn't make sense. Okay. Is there an economic cost? You can see where this is going, and I'm going to pause this screen share now. You can see where this is going. You can actually go back and forth, query your AI, and get a ton of data. All of this session took me about 15 to 20 minutes, tops. And that's how AI gives you wings. Now you could investigate individual stocks, for example. I can do the same thing in Gemini, run the same set of searches in Gemini, incidentally. Gemini is Google's AI, by the way. Gemini does a very good job of formatting, very structured. This would get a good written analysis grades. But data usage, terrible. Links, terrible. Does not have actual links. Very generic, very boring answers. Structured, written, but extremely boring. Politically correct answers. Remember how Perplexity said that this is going to happen more frequently? Gemini said it's not going to happen frequently. See how this becomes very confusing if you're querying the search engine and it's geared to give you one answer or another. So my read on these AIs is that Perplexity gives you tighter answers, more directly in line with what you want. Gemini, not so much. ChatGPT, I would rate even lower in my experience, where it hallucinates, which means it makes up data that doesn't exist. It makes up logic, and it's still trying to protect you from harm caused by runaway AI logic, which means that it's going to be predictably boring. So your text that you write, if you copied and pasted this in your work report or your MBA classwork, your professors will learn to recognize this as generic ChatGPT stuff. Why? Because I've read enough of these to know that this is generic nonsense. There's nothing interesting, no insight coming out of this. Perplexity is a little better, but you now need to apply your creativity in querying the data and making sense of it. So now, when you're looking at a regular event like Dubai rains, what you've actually got to is that you can actually make sense of the event. It's happening because climate change is creating weather patterns. Dubai has seen an increasing pattern of more of deeper, thicker rain, more, and therefore this is a pattern that might continue. Dubai has been investing into water management capabilities. There are a few companies that are investing into that in Dubai and everywhere else where climate change is coming in. Now you've got an interesting story coming out of something that you watched in the news. And to be able to get to this analysis, you can now use effectively AI to understand the facts, gather the facts, and use your intelligence to stitch them together into a narrative. And so that's how AI gives you wings. Now let's go a little bit deeper and ask our friend, I asked Perplexity, all right, read back the entire conversation and summarize it for me. Now that's the interesting part. It reads the entire thing that it's had with me and writes it down in a very nice summary. Very nice summary, identifying opportunities, listing the companies, and all that good stuff. And then, of course, I did something else to scramble it. I kept scrambling it. All right, now I kept scrambling it. Didn't get anything out of it. All right, now let's go back to the original story. What if I asked ChatGPT or Perplexity to rewrite the good luck, bad luck, who knows story that I just showed you, but write the Dubai floods into it as an example? And here's the fun part. It actually did an excellent job of it. Similar to how we read about the Zen farmer, it writes the story of Dubai. That people have got used to the rains and then to being a dry city. And then they get some rain and people are like, this is great luck. And Dubai is, okay, this is great. However, that great luck becomes great bad luck because it rains too much. And this is a very creative answer. This is a very creative answer. And so now you can understand how to use AI to augment and actually accelerate your storytelling. With that, I'm going to pause and actually stop the sharing and ask you for questions. All right, now prompt engineering. Now let me answer a few questions that come in. So is it from that book? No, this story is from originally from a book by Paul Reps called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. It's a book of Zen stories, many things including Zen stories. And originally this came up in that. This is in the 1930s. And then since has been reproduced in a lot of other places. Okay. Prompt engineering seems very exciting right now. What I showed you was an example of prompt engineering. But prompt engineering is going to, in my opinion, controversial opinion, but it'll remain a small part of the whole thing because AI is very smart. It'll begin to adopt and understand you. So remember, way back when a few years ago, people said, India, you can't have phone based payment from peer to peer payments because people are illiterate and they can't handle that, right? So what happened? Why is it a UPI payment is easy now? Not because people have become more literate, they may well have, but because the whole system became simple. You point your camera and you scan it, and then you're able to pay. As simple as that. So technology adapts, understands, and become easy to use for people at large. So all those excitement about prompt engineering is, in my opinion, short-lived. You might excel at it for 2 years, and then AI becomes pretty good already, and it understands from all the cues that you're giving. Right now, it might seem very exciting, but over the long haul, I think AI will become very good at understanding us. All right. Is there any future in prompt engineering? Here's the deal. If anyone tells you they have seen the future, they are lying. What's happening with the world of technology is a lot of flux. Things are changing too quickly to understand. Any career that you say, you look at 4 years ago, people said content marketing is great, social media influencers are great. All of these things that were great, their half life is maybe 5 years now. So it may be a good short term career. That doesn't make it a bad thing. It just means you do that and then you learn something else in 3 years and you do that. You're just going to have to hop and skip quicker. Keep learning. Your education is by no means complete upon entering and exiting your MBA. Your education is going to be a lifetime event. So to learn to unlearn is your thing. I yeah, I want to say that. Okay. Okay, so new questions. I'm going to change it permanent. Okay, which website did you use to create the AI images? By the way, the AI images I showed you, they're in Canva. Canva uses a few engines inside it. Canva has a very nice AI video capability, image capability. It uses DALI for some, it uses Midjourney for others, but it has its own proprietary white label thing. I don't know what's the underlying engine, but Canva does a reasonably good job of giving you images. That Chinese farmer I showed you, all handcrafted again. Okay, other questions. Do we have any free resources? YouTube is your friend. The deal is YouTube creates, and this is a fun fact, 37,000 years worth of video every year. So if all you did was consume the videos on YouTube, then you would spend 37,000 years consuming what was produced last year, and then good luck this year because that number is only going up. YouTube is your friend. Go look for videos in that. But the way to learn anything is to do it. Don't just learn by watching. Go out. That's the reason I asked you to get your own free subscription. Get your free account and use it. Because as you use it, you become better at it. Okay. AI for fine. Okay, let's go back a few more questions. Okay, there was a question offbeat, which is, should I pursue an MBA next year or should I get an experience pursuing an MBA? The deal is this. In the US where I live, MBAs have seen a sort of a plateauing or a decline. In India, MBAs are doing really well because, of course, there's a heavy demand for trained people and selected people and so on. The fact that you're taking CAT already means that you're in the higher intelligence bracket and the institute you pick and so on. So it's a signifier of your quality more than the quality of education that you've taken. But should you do it now or later? Look, like I said, you're going to have to learn for the rest of your life. You have entered life at a time where I've been in this MBA world for 30 years now, like I said. That world, even for us, has been rocked. And you are in the same boat. So you will probably want to do an MBA type degree every 5-10 years because things are changing really fast. So it depends on what you want to do, but you should learn as much as you can when you can. Okay, paid or free version. What college did I go to? So Tabish, I went to the Delhi College of Engineering in Delhi, which is now DTU, and I went to IIM Ahmedabad. This is here. I'm very proudly wearing the institute T-shirt. I'm Ahmedabad, batch of 1996. I run the Alumni Association in North America for the institute. Okay. Best channels for prompt engineering. Just Google the heck out of it. You're going to find channels for that in general. Power BI reports in video format. Data visualization, by the way, is a very important and very critical skill, because the more data you're going to farm, the more there's a need to make sense of it. A little known, or actually quite well known secret is that people hate to see data. When you write a book, I've written several books. When you write a book, the publishers tell you every time you add one bit of data, you lose a certain percentage of your audience. People are naturally not happy to see data, and that's why visualization becomes important, because it allows you to see data in a format that's easy. And so data visualization is an is a very creative storytelling discipline of converting data, numbers, into something that makes sense visually. You should absolutely learn it. Are there AI tools? There are a bunch of AI tools. You just Google it out. Okay. What does my own startup do? So my main trade has been sales transformation. I helped Infosys way back in 2003. Infosys was $770 million in revenue. And over the next 10 years, the company grew 10x to $7.5 billion. My job was to drive that sales transformation inside the company. And so since then, I now help other companies go to market, improve their market challenges, and so on. I, in fact, teach a course in sales and selling and storytelling in several institutes in India, including, of course, we talked about at the beginning of this thing. Okay. All right. AI in the agency is another question that had come up. Let me answer that, and then I'll go to the questions, by the way. Okay. I just realized. Okay. AI in agencies, by the way, if you're looking at a marketing agency, you have a terrible time ahead, for the simple reason that if all you were doing was creating fluff content for search engines, because what I showed you in Perplexity, search engines are under tremendous threat. Their revenue models are under threat. Any business that is contingent upon creating content for search engines is similarly under threat. So agencies are going to have to rewire their work in light of AI and become far more creative, far more insightful. And so if you're running an agency right now, you're going to have to learn a lot of AI and become really good at it. Okay. Okay. Which LLMs to use for which use cases? Like I said, which LLMs to use? I gave you 3 examples that I like to use, and of all those, I like Perplexity the most, simply because it's a lot more detailed and a lot more less hallucinated than ChatGPT or Gemini. Okay. As a 20-year-old, what skills do you recommend me to go for? That's another workshop that I deliver. You have to become good at storytelling. You have to become good at holding your mind, attention, and energy. You have to become really good at trying things and failing, because only then you learn. Those are the skills you need to acquire. Every other specific skill, learn social skills. Learn how to talk to people, not just computers or not just chatting, physical human beings. It'll be your friend. 2, learn spiritual skills. Learn to be disciplined, learn to be organized, learn to have resilience. ऊपर नीचे होता रहता है लाइफ में, right? Build that resilience. So social, spiritual, sales, learn to understand what people want, how to give them what they want. And 4, learn to be friends with software. Not how to code. If that's not for you, don't worry about it. Software is a way of thinking. It's a tool like a stone axe or a metal work. It's a tool, and we've entered an age where learning to wield this tool is important. So social, spiritual, software, and sales. Those are the skills you should learn, in my opinion. Everything else builds on top of these underlying skills. All right. Is an executive MBA worth it? every education is worth it so long as you put it to work. My cat percentile, we back in the day they did not have cat percentiles, but when in September 93 when I took one of those rando cat tests, I scored in the top 1%. That would not be a great thing now. But I got calls from all the institutes, so I suspect I was in the point whatever 99.9 some percentile at that time. We didn't; those were not disclosed in our cat, but I got all the calls that all the institutes. So I guess it must have been pretty high. Okay. Will AI kill absolute work which you have performed by MBA grad? Yes, that's what I said. Today, MBA grads, if all you do is read reports and summarize reports, yeah, that's BS. Anyone can do it with ChatGPT or any AI. You have to become more creative. You have to become more connective. You have to become even smarter. Your IQ is not enough. Your EQ has to be enough. Your resilience and grit has to be enough. Those skills you have to learn. Okay. Name of my books, you can look up Global Business in the Age of Destruction and Distraction. Offshore is another book that I have written, a bunch of other books. Okay. Confused about which career? It's hard to answer that question. MBA from India or abroad? Indian MBAs depends on the program you get into. Some Indian MBAs are amazing programs. There's 20 IIMs, but there's a lot of non-IIM institutes that are pretty good. You could go abroad, you just pay more. Find a place, okay, I should tell you this. Go to an institute where you're learning from practitioners. This is very important. What's happening is there's a phase lag, समझते हैं ना आप लोग, between what's happening in the world and what's being taught in academia, because it takes 5 to 10 years to write these research papers and condense them into interesting things, and then to create a course and then to teach the course, right? If you're losing 10 years in understanding the world, you've not really understood the world that is outside your eyes right now. So go to institutes that have a good mix of practitioner faculty, because then you learn from people that are doing things in the field rather than people that are reporting to you or teaching you things from 10 years ago. Great institute. I went to IIM Ahmedabad. I'm very proud of the institute. Because it's a case-based method, you build your intuitions a lot more, and that's an important thing to do. My opinion on the IIM Ahmedabad online MBA, I actually know the team. It's a great idea, and an online MBA. In the US, there's been a shift where people have 50% people now do online MBA and 50% now do live. That trend is happening everywhere. I expect that in India also that'll happen. Okay, Priyanka, what is your question? I saw your question or whatever. Okay. Okay, Priyanka, I'm sorry, I missed your question and I'm lost. I don't know which question to answer. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go back up. I lost the train of thought on the comments. MBA in digital transformation. Okay, so MBA in digital transformation again depends on who's teaching it and where you're learning it. Digital transformation is like electricity. Everyone's got it. Everyone needs to have it. But कौन सिखा रहा है उस पर डिपेंड करता है. It's hard for me to tell you without looking at the details. Do I offer courses? I'm actually in the process of offering a course on AI in marketing, just for fun. Copilot, okay. Specific to teaching at institutes, for example, MU, there was a question there. MU's USP is they want to bring in, like they said, people from above, quite literally above, come down and teach. So from the boardroom to the classroom. And so a lot of practitioner faculty, which is a great thing. IIM Ahmedabad has amazing faculty, of course. And then IIM Ahmedabad is also trying to get practitioner faculty. And so I'm likely to go there as well. So those are both great places, incidentally. Okay, AI will replace jobs. Boss, AI will replace jobs. AI will also create jobs. That's why I taught today's class. It will create amazing opportunities for you. The world that you've entered is filled with abundance. If you constrict your heart and say, no, अरे मेरी तो नौकरी जाने वाली है, सरकार घर में पैसा दे देगी, then what point? That's not a very good way of looking at the potential of what's going to happen. You are entering a world. I entered the workforce in the mid 90s. India had just begun to climb up. It was a golden period to enter the workforce. You have again similarly entered you are going to enter the workforce similarly where India is on the increase, on the upswing, and the AI created opportunities and startup created opportunities are going to be on the upswing. It's an amazing period to enter the workforce. Will AI take jobs? Yes, it will create even more jobs. Don't worry about it. A doctor pursuing MBA? Yeah, okay. I don't know how to answer that. Okay, next question. Will MBA help me become an entrepreneur? Here's a side joke. In Silicon Valley, where I live, companies that startups are valued, they reduce value for every MBA that you hire. And it's a joke, but it's true in many ways because if all you learn is analysis paralysis, ये चार्ट देख लिया वो चार्ट देख लिया कंफ्यूज हो गए, then you're not going to be an asset to your startup because वो जुगाड़ और जो जुनून चाहिए आपको to run a startup, the capability to believe things and execute with force, that if you lose that in your MBA, then it's a terrible thing to do as an entrepreneur. But if you're able to hold on to your capacity for belief, not be paralyzed by data, to be able to tell amazing stories, then an MBA is very helpful because you're able to understand the world a lot better. But it's a very, don't lose your capacity to think, is my point. Okay. 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 What about Microsoft Copilot? I haven't really used Copilot as much, to be honest. I haven't. There's only so many tools I wanted to try out. Okay. Mentoring. Startup ideas. So the bunch of startup ideas, it's hard for me to do this just-in-time response because I think I'll need to parse your question a little better to understand that. Okay, learn more about the art of persuasion. Great question. There's a book by a person called Robert Cialdini. The Principles of Influence. You should look up the 6 Principles of Influence. And it's a brilliant book. There's field books and so on. A lot of books that have come out of his original work. You should read those, watch the videos relating to it. It's very interesting. It's one of the most fun courses I've ever attended, the Principles of Influence course. Look that up. This is for you, Ananta. This was your question. Okay, any other questions or comments? Should I use ChatGPT for market research and analysis? Ishan, the answer is an absolute no. Do not use ChatGPT to do any analysis that you can't risk because it hallucinates a lot. It oversimplifies. And so if you're using it, the state of the art right now, I would not recommend using it for market analysis if that's what you're interested in. You should use it to run through data. Microsoft Copilot actually does do data analysis for you. But again, all these things are in infancy. Presentation making AI, for example, I've seen those. If you don't know how to think clearly, AI is not going to give you wings. Right? It'll give you wings, but you'll crash into the wall. Right? So you have to learn how to think first. When I'm reading the book, okay, so any other book suggestions? Okay, depends on what you want. How to think about a startup idea? So book suggestions, there's a lot of book suggestions that I can give you. You ask me specific topic, I'll tell you what I like. There's a book I love about problem solving. It's called The Thinker's Toolkit. Yeah, The Thinker's Toolkit. I'll give it to you. It's an interesting book. There's a whole bunch of problem solving books that I can see in my library over here that I could give you. But again, that's what you're going to your MBA for. Your professors will give you those books. They'll be very interesting. Okay. How to learn to think clearly is a very important skill. Why you're going to your MBA is this. You're not, I tell this to the MBAs that I mentor all the time. Your job in the workforce is not to impress people with your superior IQ. because that gets boring really fast. It turns out only you and your mom are impressed by your IQ. No one else really cares, right? So you have to learn to connect. You have to learn to communicate. You have to learn to create a space where other people can think. And that requires a lot of skill. That's what you're going to your MBA to learn. Not how to become even more high IQ than the other person, and then people stop paying attention to you. Your IQ must be delivered in a very pleasant, very interesting format. That's what you're going for. Okay. And so thinking clearly is an important skill for sure. Okay, now what else is there? Can I take help for making presentations? Blah blah blah. Okay. Okay, AI for making presentation, Ishan, your question. AI for making presentations, like I just said, you have to learn to think first. And if you haven't done mind mapping, you should definitely learn mind mapping. It will help you think clearly. And then you can use AI. But frankly, I'm not in favor of using AI for making presentations because, again, it'll be a generic, boring stuff. It may prompt you and give you a slide structure, but how to make it interesting, visually compelling, all of those things you have to do by experience. Developing taste is more important than just developing the technical skills. All right. Canva help with presentations. Yeah, I used Canva. The presentation I showed you was on Canva. I like Canva, of course, far more than I used to PowerPoint or Keynote on Mac. Why? Because Canva does much better slide layout, is more seamless, easier to edit in, easier to go from one device to another. Compared to Google Slides or PowerPoint, I think Canva is a much better tool for me. But that's just my opinion. All right. Microsoft BI, an essential corporate skill. Data visualization is a primary form of literacy. It's an essential corporate skill. Whether you use Microsoft BI or something else is up to you. You could use Tableau for all I care. Okay. Advice for CAT. Advice for CAT, I muggled the word list very heavily. Word lists were very important. So there's the math part and the language part. Math part I was good at. I'm an engineer. It wasn't that concerning. I was really good at taking tests, it turns out. And I don't have much help on that front for you. It's just something I enjoyed doing. But I spend a lot of time memorizing word lists, reading stuff. Reading is very important because it helps you develop comprehension, especially this reading comprehension and word jumbles that you might get now. It's very important. All right. But if you couldn't get tier 1 college or in a tier 2 college, here is the deal, Ishita. That's a very important question. You are in an amazing time in history. Which college you get into, you could have a temporary setback if you're not in the college of your dreams, but your potential is not limited by your college. Your potential is limited by how well you explore your potential. It's very important for you to believe in yourself. Don't worry about the college. Do not worry about if you had I'll give you an example. I went to this, like the best school in Delhi. Those who know, they know. And I went to the best class in the best school in Delhi. And of my class of 50 kids, 20 of us got into IIT. I did not. I got to Roorkee, which is now an IIT, but I also got to DTDC. I was heartbroken for the first 6 months because this was a terrible time in my life. Because in my mind, I'm the same caliber as my classmates, and didn't go to IIT, right? And I thought this was a very terrible situation in life. But in hindsight, this was 34 years ago. It made very small difference to the trajectory of my life. Very little difference, if at all. And so give yourself some space. Don't worry about things. Your potential is not limited by what institute you get at. Your potential is enhanced by it, but not limited by it. Gap year without job. Okay, people say don't worry about people, yaar. When you've made it, they'll say, Arey, they've made it. What's the big deal? Logon ka kaam hai kehna, right? Gap year without job. Here's the deal. If you do interesting things, it'll make you an interesting MBA candidate. When I go to hire from the MBA programs, I am always looking for interesting people. Not people who I ask, "Aapki kya interest hai?" and they say the following two words: cricket and movies. क्रिकेट और मूवीज ही देख रहे हो एक साल घर पे बैठ के, तो देन यू हैवंट रियली डन एनीथिंग इंटरेस्टिंग. कुछ मज़ेदार काम करो. It'll give you life experience, it'll give you exposure, help you become a better person, a more interesting person. Gap year is not a problem. Not doing something interesting, not doing something that you've engaged in is a problem. That's what you should be doing. All right. Okay. With time, using AI will become more simple. How do I differentiate from the cloud? That's what I'm telling you. Soft skills are going to become the hard skills. AI, the whole point of technology is it becomes easier. If all you knew was how to work on the computer, which 30 years ago was a big deal, and now everyone and their brother at a cyber cafe can do it on your phone. Your phone is smarter than the supercomputers they used to import into India 30, 40 years ago, right? Technology becomes easier. Don't be a slave to the technology. You can do so much better if you're able to connect with humans and build all those soft skills. So do both. Don't just do one or the other. All right. MBA in HR, I don't know how to give you an answer for that. Depends on the program. It's not something I can give you glibly off the top of my head. All right. Can you reach out to me for mentorship and assistance? You can reach out. And again, you just have to be persistent. I'll be happy to respond if I can. But again, I thank CATKing for the opportunity given to me to meet you and to wish you all the luck. You are at an amazing time in history, and I know you're all going to do well. Believe in yourself, invest in yourself, keep learning. That's all going to be very important. All right. I'm going to pause, see if there's any questions left, or I'll give it back to you, ma'am, for any
Okay, I think
questions.
that was really a very interesting session. So,
Hi, Nisha. Yes, hi. Please.
yes, I was just saying that thank you so much, sir. It was a really very interesting session. I just was hearing by all through the conversations which was going on, and I'm sure they all enjoyed a lot with all the insights and everything. Like,
Anisha, is it me? I'm not
बहुत
hearing your
मजा आ
voice
गया
very
and
clearly.
every thank you Sunday बहुत हुआ and you guys totally we would serve for entire session.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.